Welcome back guys. In the previous video we learned that how to initialize a Vue.js project, and now we are going to cover that how methods works in the Vue.js. So what is the method? So let's say we want to handle the click functionality. So it's a method that when someone click on a button, so how we can do this in the Vue.js. So I have opened this my project index.html file, and this one is our pretty basic file where we initialize this object. And if you are new, so this one is a full Vue.js course where we are going to cover everything from scratch to Vue.js basics. Okay, and I'm also deploying this project here on this Vue.js latest course. You can visit this URL and then get this source code if you are getting any issues, so you can watch it and then add it into your project. Okay, I'm closing that out, and now moving further, I want to handle the methods, right? So how we can implement the methods? So here I'm going to create a button. Okay, it's a HTML button. I'm going to say that show alert, something like this. You can also style it, but I'm doing this simple because it's a testing video where we are just learning, and then later on we will build a project. Okay, show alert, and here after the data property you can create a methods property where you can define your all of the methods. This is the Vue way how views handle the methods, then colon, and then its body brackets. So here you will define your all of the methods in the Vue.js. So I'm going to create a method for handling this alert. So I'm going to name this method show my alert. Okay, something like this. And then here I'm going to say that alert, hey, I am here. Okay, what I have did here, basically I have created a methods property because I want to create my methods in the Vue.js, and then I have created a method. You don't need to write the function here, just define its name, its parentheses, and then its body bracket, and you can write here whatever you want to implement. Okay, I have added this, hey, I'm here, and now how I can call this on this button? I want to call this on this button click. So how Vue.js handle this? It will handle this using v on, and then on the v on there is a click, right? Because we want to handle this on the click functionality. So here you need to define your this method. Basically you need to call your method, not define. We have already defined it. Okay, show my alert v on. Here we are basically binding this value to this button dynamically, right? And then we are handling a click event, right? So let's go here, refresh, and if I go here and click on that, it will show us a pop-up. Click, and yes, you can see this, it's showing here. Okay, and then click and it's showing properly. Okay, now go back. What we did here is we have added a button, and then on the button we are handling a click event. So how to call a click event? So first you need to bind it. What is the meaning of binding? So it means that we are assigning a dynamic property to this button. So we have called this v on, and then on this v on we are handling a click event. Basically we are handling when someone is clicking on this button. Okay, and then we pass this show my alert method. And how you can define the methods in the Vue.js? In the methods property you can define your method, and it will work as expected. This is the way how Vue.js handle the methods. So this one is very simple example. Now let's understand it with a bit deeper example. So let's say we have this button and we want to perform different operations. Like I want to now change its color, like I want to toggle it. When I click it first time, it will when the button is active, it's marked as green, but when it's not active, it's marked as red. So how I can do that? So for that purposes we need to create a classes here. So I'm going to create some class here. Okay, so class would be text green, something like this, and the color should be green. And similarly I'm going to create another which is text red, and this is a basic CSS which you are doing in your HTML. Okay, I have did this, and now I want to handle this on this show my alert, right? I want to call those classes here. So how to call the classes? So you can call your classes something like this. Here mention your class name. So let's say I want to call this text green. Let's go here, get refresh, and you can see this now button become green, right? But I want to basically assign it dynamically, right? I don't want to assign this text green. I want to make it based on the decision. So if the button is active, then assign it a class. So first I'm going to create a property where I'll handle this button functionality. So is my button is active, so I'm going to adding a property is active, and by default it should be false. Okay, I have defined a property, and here in my show alert I'm basically commenting this for you. Okay, and here I'm copying the same thing, removing this alert, and I'm going to say that this dot is active. If I want to access this variable, I can access it any of the methods, any of the hook. Why? Because this Vue will handle this behind the scenes. We need to just call this dot is active, and Vue knows that what is this property. I want to assign this a value of what? If I'll assign it on the value of false or true, something like this, and now I want to bind this functionality, right? If this property is active, then mark it green, right? So for this purposes you need to bind this class dynamically. So for binding you need to call this vBind, and then Vue knows that what is the property of that. So here I want to say if button is active. Okay, active. So if button is active, so then assign a class of text green. Otherwise, if it's not active, then assign it a text red, right? Something like this. So whenever our button is active, it will assign a green class, then it will mark it red. Let's get refresh, and yes, you can see this now. It's by default red, because by default value is red. If I click on it, it's showing green, and it's working fine. But if I'm clicking on it, it's not changing the value, right? So if you want to toggle that functionality, that whenever you are clicking on it first time it will show the green, otherwise it will show the different one, right? It's opposite value. So how you can do this? Just remove this and say not here. Okay, so this one is our default functionality. Here in the true, just mention this dot is active. It will assign the same value and pass the negation here. I want to set its property opposite to that property. Let's say this active contain true, so it will mark it equal to false, right? And if it's contain a false, then it will mark it as a true, something like this. Let's get refresh and click on it, click, and yes, you can see this. Now it's showing the red and green. Basically we are toggling our functionality. Okay, so what we did here is we have created the two classes, text red and green, and then we are binding those classes based on a variable. So this is a vBind, which is used to bind the class dynamically, because we are handling this based on our decision. So if you want to do this, you need to bind that class. Okay, and then we are binding this is active variable. So here we have defined our variable is active property by default false. When it's false, okay, here we are checking if this property is active, mark text color green, otherwise mark text as red, right? And similarly we are changing this functionality using this method. And if I go here and inspect this code here, something like this, so then you can see this here in the app. You can see this, there is a button where class is red. If I click on it, you can see this, now it's dynamically changing this class, right? This is the way we are handling this class dynamically using this method. We have defined this property here and we are binding those values here. So now this vbind is a bit long. There is a shorthand which you can use to bind the class. So instead of binding here, just add this, instead of binding you can use this, only this colon. So this colon is used for binding. If I go here and get refresh and click on it, so still our this class binding is working fine. So you can bind any of the object. In this case we have only added the class. If you want to add the style, you can bind that, okay? And similarly on this, by using this v on, you can bind this using this add symbol, add click, something like this. If I go here and let's get refresh, click on it, you can see this, our click functionality is working fine. So it means that this click is working. And if I remove this and refresh this, this wouldn't work. You can see this, it's not working. I'm clicking on it and it will throw an error. Okay, when I'll click on it, no, it's not throwing the error, but it's Vue don't know that where we are clicking on it, right? So it's handle this using this at or v on click, right? So now it's working fine. So this is also a shorthand. So I'm pasting it here, so you can define any of the method here, v click and so on. So this is the way how you can basically handle the click functionality in the Vue.js and bind your classes dynamically. Let me know if you have any confusion, so you can write this in the comment box. I'm actively replying to my students, so you will be also get response from my side. So if you want to learn more about the Vue.js, watch the next video where I'll cover the next stuff, that how we can basically create the computed properties. So what are the computed? So let's discuss this in the next video. Bye bye.